If you're like me and have struggled getting your running shoes or your cycling shoes dry when it's been wet, I may have just the solution for you. In this video, I'll be reviewing the Renogy, I think that's how you pronounce it, boot dryer, which has pretty much solved the problem I had with my shoes getting damp and starting to smell. Before getting the boot dryer, I was using something called boot bananas, which are filled with silica beans and are put into your shoes to help absorb some of the moisture and help dry them out. These have worked okay for me, but not brilliantly. If my shoes were only a little damp, they did a half decent job at drying them out, but if they were sodden, they really weren't up to the task. For example, if my shoes got muddy and I washed them in the sink, there is no way the bananas would fully dry them out, even if I left them outside to dry naturally a bit beforehand. I then had to resort to putting them on the radiator with the bananas stuffed in them. Now this is no good if the heating isn't on during the summer, and it did tend to stink the house out a bit. Around the time when I really needed a better solution, I just so happened to come across a recommendation from Mark Lewis for the boot dryer, and it was my birthday coming up, so I asked Stacey for it as a birthday present. I've used it several times since having it, and I've been impressed so far. A pair of my runners could actually do with a bit of a clean anyway, so I'm going to give them a good wash as part of this video and do a proper test of the dryer to see how good of a job it does when the shoes are pretty much soaked. Now a bit about some of the features of the dryer. Firstly, it is multi-use, and so you don't have to use it just for your shoes. You could put all sorts of things on it to dry, as it's designed to cater for a lot of different materials without damaging them. So let's say you go out for a ride with gloves and overshoes on. Hopefully your shoes stay dry, otherwise you might want to look at getting another pair of overshoes, but you can put your gloves and overshoes on it instead. A feature that I particularly like is that it automatically turns off once it finishes drying. The default setting has it on for 20 minutes before turning off, but you can of course adjust how long it is heating for, a minimum of 5 minutes and a maximum of 99 minutes. When I used it for the first time, of course the shoes weren't overly wet, but the normal 20 minutes was perfectly long enough to dry them and make them nice and warm to the touch. It is nice to know that you can have the dryer on for a good hour and a half, but in my experience so far, I can't imagine you need it on for that long. It also handily folds away and is extendable, so it takes up very little space, even when you have the forks extended with your shoes on them. The forks themselves rotate 90 degrees upwards and they extend out to be around 14 inches in length, so suit a wide variety of size shoes. For us triathletes, our cycling shoes and trainers will fit on them no problem at all. My size 12s fit on with loads of room spare, so you could easily put boots or even some short wellies on if you needed to. In terms of the heating element itself, the forks have multiple vents which provide constant heat between 40 and 50 degrees Celsius, which cannot be adjusted. This is actually a good thing in my opinion, as it's one less thing that you have to worry about changing. Something to note is that because of this, both the fans and heat will always be used. You can't just use one or the other, but I can't really imagine a scenario when you would only need the one anyway. So that's a bit about some of the features of the dryer. Let's now get my shoes washed, or ask Stacey if she'll very kindly wash them for me, and put them on the dryer to see how well they dry. Right, so we left the shoes on the dryer for the default 20 minutes, but found they weren't dry enough, certainly not to wear, so I put them back on for another 20. What I took from this was that the 20 minutes would probably be fine if there was just a bit of drizzle outside or you just wanted to warm the shoes up, but for anything more than that, they would probably need longer on the dryer. We really did give them a good soaking in the sink when we washed them, so they will need a good amount of time on the dryer should you do something similar to clean them, or if you step in a big puddle, for example. They were definitely drier after another 20 minutes, but it was worth rotating them round in between, as I found the heels to still be a little bit damp. So to conclude, the dryers do a great job at drying shoes if they're a little bit damp or you just want to warm them up a bit, but not as good should your shoes really be soaking wet. If you have thoroughly washed them or stepped in a big puddle and they are sodden, I would suggest leaving them outside to dry naturally for a bit first, and then use the dryer to finish them off. I have personally found this to be a useful bit of kit, especially during these cold and wet winter months, and you really can't fault it for the price, which is very affordable. I'll leave a link to it in the description box below if you want to check it out for yourself. Thank you if you made it this far in the video. I hope you enjoyed it and found it helpful. If you did, you might want to check out this video on screen where I share 7 tips for training early in the morning. I'd really appreciate it if you could drop this video a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and ring that bell for notifications. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one.